Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. This is Someshyuguy's official 2024 Game Loop Settings Guide. This video will kind of be in three parts. The first part, which is the background settings or how to download the emulator. The second part will kind of be the in-game commonly asked questions. And the third part will be the in-game actual settings. So, thank you again for watching. Hope you all enjoy. Take care. So, to start off, where do you actually get the Game Loop emulator? Regardless of if you want to play Call of Duty Mobile, PUBG, or any other game that the Game Loop emulator offers, it's very important where you actually download the emulator from. You can see here, just have Google Chrome up, typed in Game Loop in the search bar. First one came up, obviously it'll be blue for you. However, it's purple because I have clicked on it. And if you click on the official www.gameloop.com website, it will be brought to this page. Same thing, right? This is the only place I would recommend downloading your emulator from. If you go back to the search page, you can go down and kind of see a whole bunch of other websites that also advertise, oh, this is Game Loop Emulator, free download, latest version, whatnot. Just to play it safe, only download the Game Loop Emulator from the official website. All right, now that we have successfully downloaded a safe official version of Game Loop onto our PC, how do you actually get, for our instance, in our case, Call of Duty Mobile on your emulator? So you can see here, this is the home page of the emulator. You can either do one of two things. You can either do one, go to Store, if it loads, and then you can scroll down, whole bunch of games, and usually Call of Duty Mobile, because I have it already installed, I don't believe it will be in the direct pop-up, or you can just search it, simply type in Call of Duty Mobile, and you can download the game or any other game that is on the store. How to actually find it every single time, you go to the Me tab, and as you can see, I have under My Games, Call of Duty Mobile installed. Now that we have the emulator and our game of choice downloaded and completely set up, you're going to want to change the actual emulator settings. Now, you can leave them default. However, I would not recommend this because these are, for some reason, not very optimized. I don't know if it's kind of the default safe settings that they decided to, install with every emulator. However, I would highly recommend changing them. Depending on your device is obviously going to depend on how, maxing out of settings you can do, or how much you can change. So we're just going to go over that very quickly. How to actually change that, if you see, go up to here, the three dashes on the top right of your screen, simply click. And the first thing you actually could do, if you already have the Game Loop emulator downloaded and haven't used it in a while, however, since we just downloaded it, we won't need to. You can also do update check to make sure you have the most recent version installed. However, what we want to do is click on the Settings tab. Now, this is sort of the access point of how we actually change the Game Loop settings. Now that we've successfully gotten into the Game Loop settings, we can change a few things. I do apologize. Obviously, my settings are going to be different than the default. However, just simply copy mine, or you can also change and look up other videos. That is one thing that I would highly recommend. I try to be as helpful and insightful as possible in my video. However, I completely encourage you to actually go to multiple videos, which is actually what I did when I first got the emulator, of comparing different people's settings, different people's recommendations, seeing what actually worked and what didn't. So for me, most of these settings work pretty well. Unfortunately, if you've ever used the Game Loop emulator or you've watched a video of mine, it's not a very good emulator to begin with. So changing these settings will hopefully help it perform the best that it can. However, it will still have bugs, issues, and so on and so forth, right? They call them features or whatever. To start off with the basic, I don't want this to auto start it basically when I turn on my computer, so unselect that, and I just have hide advanced and best fix window. Not really sure what the auto download reserve is. Don't really use the boss key. Obviously, language is English and country is US. Change accordingly if needed. Now on to the engine settings page. At the top, you can see we have 3 options of open, direct, or auto. I'm not sure why a lot of YouTubers recommend auto. Personally, I found it works better with DirectX. Again, whatever works best with your computer, you can try different settings. Down here with the 7 options that we have, I select the first 4, the prioritize discrete graphics card. If you have integrated graphics and you don't have a separate GPU from your CPU, don't select this. But if you do, however, you are able to select this and get a little bit better performance because it prioritizes your graphics card actually rendering your graphics rather than your CPU. Enable vertical sync. This is a setting not just for Game Loop, but literally any other game. Don't enable this. It locks your FPS to your refresh rate. It says to avoid screen tearing. It really just limits how well your emulator and PC can perform. So highly do not recommend to use this setting. The debugging and root authority, I'm not sure what those are, to be honest, so I'd never selected them, but so far it's run pretty good. You can test them, and obviously if you know what these settings do and you would recommend either enabling or disabling, please leave a comment below, not only for myself but to help out the other people watching this video. So thank you very much. Anti-aliasing, game scent, there you go, Tencent and Game Loop. If you ever watch this, anyone who works for the company, please fix this. This is a black box error. It's a whole graphical issue, unfortunately, with the anti-aliasing. I found that if any setting that you have it on, you have a chance of logging into your emulator and everything is messed up, the graphics and whatnot. I'll throw a picture of the screen up on the screen right now just to show you. It really is game breaking, so please fix this issue. It's been in the emulator for a while, along with your other multiple performance problems that this emulator has. So please, asking very nicely, if you just look into this. I would recommend having this off. Anti-aliasing kind of smooths all the graphical differences to one barrier of graphics to the other. If you have it in ultra, obviously it looks better. If you have it in off, it performs better. So I would recommend having it off or balanced. Again, test with your PC, your emulator, see which one performs the best. Memory, I try to max it out because I have 32 gigabytes. I would recommend allocating as much memory as possible. There is a math side to how much memory you're able to use. I believe it's half of your allocated memory. So if I had 16, I'd be able to use 8,000. However, I have 32, so I can use the max. So whatever half of your memory is, you can use that correlating setting. Processor, again, this has to do with threads. I believe I have 12 or 16, I can't remember, so I'm able to max it out. However, with your setup computer or whatnot, you can also change it to the correlating. If you want to play it safe, you can do automatic for a few of these settings, just if you don't want to mess anything up or you are not confident of what your PC specs are. Resolution is your monitor resolution. Mine is native at 1920 by 1080, excuse me. So that's what I'm going to set it to correlate. Obviously, you can go up higher. Keeps going out of the windows, I apologize. And then set it to your native monitor resolution. Screen DPI, I would highly recommend you just max it out. A few people say that 320 or 240 or 160 is the best. I'm not sure why. I found that I'm actually kind of limited with how well my performance does past 90 FPS, so highly recommend just 480. Again, test, see which setting works for you, right? Playback device and recording device, very simple. What are your headphones and what is your microphone? And then audio channel, there are 2 to pick from, wave out and direct sound. I've found that the more precise, if you have a good pair of headphones, the more precise audio is the wave out, and the direct sound sounds more muffled and not very pinpoint accurate, with footsteps, gunfire in kind of 3D directional sound, if that makes sense. So I would recommend wave out, but obviously, again, test and see what works best for you. Now on to the model settings menu. There are 2 options at the top. You can have common model or custom. I chose custom and I'm using the Asus ROG Ultimate. There we go. Or you can also use the common model, and they have more of the, obviously, lack of better words, more common models of phones that you can base your emulator off of for performance. I found that the custom and using high-end gaming phones in real life and saying that this is what the emulator is running off of has better performance, but obviously test yourself and see what works best for you. All right, now on to the game settings menu. This will differentiate, game to game because we're doing Call of Duty Mobile. Call of Duty Mobile is up top, and we have the two settings options for it. PUBG, Free Fire, and whatnot. Different games will have a little bit different settings, so I apologize. I only know how to do the Call of Duty Mobile one for now, so hope you understand. For some reason, I'm not sure why, only using the full HD 2K option allows 120 FPS as well as using with the graphics quality HD. These two options allow you to have 120 FPS. If you choose anything lower for some reason, it's very frustrating. It will either lock you at 60 or 90 FPS. So if you want to get 120 FPS and your monitor has 120 hertz or higher refresh rate and you're able to use that, perfect. If not, you can choose a few of the, lower quality and lower performance options if it's more stable for you. So again, like all these settings, make sure you test and see what works best for you, and also watch other people's videos and see, hey, if I have a lower end device, what settings would, you recommend for this? For, this video, it's overall general of these work the best. However, you do kind of have to have a nicer system or a little bit beefier PC than kind of a basic. So I do apologize about some of the lower or mid-end users, but this is what has worked best for me. The account tab, if you want to make a Game Loop account, you can log in. This is where you can see your account. You don't need to make an account. I didn't. But also, any setting or anything that you change, if you want it to actually apply, make sure to hit the save button. If you don't, it will not save your changes. Pretty simple. Hello everyone, and welcome to the second part of this video, the more commonly asked questions that I get about the emulator. Number 1, what version of Game Loop do you play on? I play on the 64-bit version. I know there's the 32-bit. I think it's a little bit older and more unstable, but other people have said the opposite, so you can try both, see which one works for you. Number 2, how do I get the live FPS counter in-game? Go up to Toolset, and because I have it enabled, if I hit it again, it'll hide it. However, if I want it back, Toolset, Show FPS. Number 3, is the click to accelerate button safe to use? Yes. All this button simply does is clear up a little bit of excess memory that the emulator is using to hopefully improve game experience. Not scientifically proven, but I don't think it hurts, and it's never crashed my game or given me any problems. And if you're having a little bit of, FPS drops or game instability, I would either recommend resetting your emulator, resetting your computer as well, and clicking this a few times to see if that helps. Number 4, how do I access the key mapping settings of the emulator? Very simple. Key mapping. There you go. It's very it's very simple. You can change either multiplayer or battle royale. You can also, with F1, display key mapping tips. So on the screen, you'll see all the little Z, C, R buttons with the correlating buttons in game. I prefer to have them off because it looks a little cleaner because I know the buttons, but to learn them, I would highly recommend to have this on. And obviously, anything that you do, you can save, or if you've messed up your keybinds and you're really having problems and you can't jump or crouch anymore or anything, you can also hit reset, which resets everything back to default. So remember to save, put this again as windowed, and the last question is, do you play either windowed or full screen? Highly, highly, highly recommend playing full screen. You can do this two ways. Number 1, you can simply go up to full screen. Now, you can also do F11 to unfull screen. And there you go. Now we are on the third and final part of this video, the in-game settings. So how do you actually get to the in-game settings? Simply go up here, hit the gear icon, and here we are. For controls, very simple. Leave it on hipfire for all three. Oops. There we go. Well, saved myself there. Just leave it on hipfire for all three modes. This keeps it the simplest firing mode, and this is the mode I recommend. Now, on to the basic settings. I don't want to bore you with every single one of these settings, so I'm going to slowly scroll through and just show you what I use. However, the two settings that I will go over are the quick weapon switch and the prospective teammate. Obviously, quick weapon switch is going to give you an advantage in battle, so I would definitely recommend turning that on. Prospective teammate is where you're able to see your teammates through walls highlighted in blue. This kind of gives a more accurate location of where your teammates are, and so you can either go over and help them or stay away from an area if needed. Now, another setting that I will actually touch on, I apologize, is the mistouch prevention. This works pretty decently, I believe, on iPads, iPhones, anything with a touch screen. If you have an emulator and you're playing with a controller or a mouse and keyboard, do not enable this. This will completely mess up your movement and it will completely mess up your camera. Leave that off. Don't touch it. Everything else, whatever I have enabled, is usually what I recommend. Another thing too is the gun kick. It's actually a very nice setting that they added. It depends on how much you actually want visibly your gun to kick and how much aim shake you want to have. I would recommend keeping everything on 0. I'm not sure why you would want to have it on 100. If you want to have a, I guess, gaming experience of super high recoil and your gun flailing around everywhere with every bullet it fires, I guess you can put this up to 100 or whatever. Highly recommend putting it at 0, just a little bit of a cleaner setting for you. I like the damage number on to see how much actual damage I'm doing, and also to see those 300 damage headshot indicators. Obviously, because I'm on a PC, I don't really have a gyroscope, so I have that off. I have a 25-inch monitor, so I have my FOV set to maximum just to make it easy to see everything. There we go. BR mode, and for every mode I play with aim assist off. I don't like the lock-on feature, so I like freehand aim, so just to let you know. For BR, the auto expand wingsuit, it's F. So if you have it off and you jump off of a high building, you'll see at the very bottom of the screen, the F button will appear. If you hit F, your wingsuit will deploy when you hit it. If you have it on, it will automatically do it. I don't like it because sometimes I like to drop on people silently, or it's kind of annoying if you jump off of not so high of a building and just want to drop down to a safe ledge or whatnot. It sometimes auto deploys it and it's kind of inconvenient. So I would have that off if you are more advanced and used to the keybinds. Same thing with the gun kick scale for multiplayer, damage number, and the FOV. The map settings, I prefer to have all of these visual indicators just to give me a little easier time. You can have them off or disabled or more general. I prefer more accurate. Zombies, I think, is the same thing, so I'm not even going to go into that. All right, on to the audio and graphics settings. Very simple, medium, ultra. Highly recommend for almost any single device. If you're having horrible FPS, instability, and performance issues, what you can do is you can not only lower your graphics to low, or you can also go to very high, max, high, and lower this to try to be more stable rather than trying to squeeze every frame out of your emulator. Frame rate, obviously I have it set to 120, frame rate adjustments on. I don't think this really matters. I just have it on dynamic, just personal. What I will say is if you have most of these off except the realistic scope, these will obviously require more processing power. So I'd have these off, but they're only available on the higher, if I can get up here, higher graphic quality settings. And then all the way at the bottom, not sure why my mouse is not going down. I apologize. You can probably hear it clicking. We have the last setting, which I would highly, highly recommend if you do a start shader preload. This simply preloads all of the shadows, shading, and the smaller, I guess, more graphical portions of the processing of this game. Recommend doing that probably once a week just to help keep your game as stable as possible. On the audio, I think I have everything on 100 except music. I don't like the music because it's distracting. And obviously, I'm English speaker, so I'll have the voiceover language in English. The effects, I don't really think this matters too much. This is more of personal preference, I guess, for colors and whatnot. However, I will say explosion shake is probably good to have off, because if you have it on, you're probably going to get motion sick if you're having a lot of nades or vehicles blow up beside you and your camera's shaking like you're in a washing machine. So I would have that off, but most of these are personal preference settings. On to a kind of weird setting that I don't understand why a lot of people want. However, I'm here to help. So the sensitivity issues and the sensitivity that I use are default. I don't change any of these. I only change my mouse DPI, which is how sensitive or not sensitive my mouse is. For me, I use a Razer DeathAdder V3 on 3200 DPI. That's it. I have all of these absolutely basic. Whatever the default, whatever, what emulator is downloaded with, comes with, right? All of these are default. I don't really like to change any of them. I don't think it's necessary to change any of them. So to answer all of your questions, because I know I have gotten a few, share your sensitivity code or what's your sensitivity for this? Default. I only change my mouse DPI. So I apologize if I disappointed some people of wanting some secret sensitivity trick. Personally, I just use everything default. However, I will say is the link sensitivity with resolution, I would have this off. I don't know why, but you either are super, super slow or super, super way too high sensitive if you have it on, depending on when you log on. It's I don't know. I just don't like the setting. So that is the only thing I really changed, is have that off. Now, the last few settings we're kind of just going to brush over very, very quickly. These are my settings for BR, so if you're not a BR player, obviously you can skip ahead a little bit, but these are my overall preset settings to backpack and what I have for mods and whatnot set up for my game. These are obviously personal preference. These work best for me, but so on. There we go. Vehicle settings, same thing. You can try different things with the, I guess you could say, emulator controller. They're not going to matter as much as touch. Touch settings you can, I guess, change in between and see which works best for your thumbs or fingers or however many you play with, right? But for emulator, I kind of just like to use loadout B and loadout B. Quick message doesn't really matter. I think I have only like 6 or 4 enabled, just very basics and whatnot. I usually don't use these anyway. For controller, obviously, if you have a controller, here's how you find all of your settings for what each button press actually does. There you go. And legal and privacy, I guess really the only thing that I could show is the streamer mode. So if you didn't know how to obviously get into streamer mode or out of streamer mode, I'm in it right now. I really don't like to be in it. Just because I think it's rude and trying to hide from people. I just didn't want to get invitations while recording. But if you want to allow friends to spectate, if you want to reject all your invitations, or you want to do streamer mode, this is how you get to these settings. Language, obviously, this is where you can change it. So if you speak Spanish, change it to Spanish, English, right? Self-explanatory. Very last one is install. I'm not sure why they have this. I guess it's just for space saving, but you have an option to actually delete just the zombies maps. if you need the space. So if you need to have a little more space and Game Loop is taking up a little too much and you don't play zombies, this is how you delete only the zombies mode or maps or whatnot. So there you go. All right, everyone. Tried not to take too much of your time today, but tried to be as informative and helpful as I possibly could. Thank you so much for your support, your time, willingness to watch, comments, and everything else that you guys do for me. This really has become a pretty cool hobby for me to do, of trying to help as many people with something I enjoy doing right in my free time as possible. So again, thank you very much. Hope you all are blessed. Take care. And also, if you have any comments or questions, just leave them in the description below. Bye.